Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the diary of an aspiring speaker. Today I chose the word diary on purpose. I could have used the word ledger, but I said, let me, for the sake of enriching my vocabulary, use the word diary. And I'm using it on purpose because the ledger that we know today, which is simple, a record to show or to document some transactions. It's a document that shows the movement or the inflow and outflow of transactions. Many people would associate a ledger with the inflow and outflow of funds. But a ledger, the true meaning of the word ledger, simply means a document that shows the movement of transactions, and its history dates back way back and about 7,000 years ago. In the days, or it's actually traced to the people of Mesopotamia, which today is the modern day Iraq. So, way back there, with the advent of technology, which was revolutionary by the way, they would make some clay tablets. Out of the clay, they would mold a tablet that would probably, even if it were to look like this phone, and then they would document the transactions and the expenditures and the flow of goods. They would also document the ownership of some specific assets. But the system was prone to some flaws, or the system had some flaws. And fast forward to around, there was a time when an Italian, Fra Pacioli, probably might struggle to pronounce it, decided or coined or invented the double entry bookkeeping system. What the double entry bookkeeping system simply meant was, for every debit, there was to be a credit. So now today we all know that for every corresponding debit, there is a corresponding credit. Meaning for the outflow of value from one point to another, there was an inflow or a corresponding inflow of value. So he came up with the double entry bookkeeping system, which was the beginning and the foundation of a trust based relationship. Previously, some two strangers that needed to make a transaction, they used to be hesitant to transact against each other because one would want to document, for let's say you want to document a borrowing arrangement or whatever relationship. It was so difficult to prove and to trust the other party that they will stick to their promise. But with the double entry bookkeeping system, what it meant was there was a centralized place where the entries and the records of ownership would be stored. And it was the creation of such a double entry booking system that led to the formation of the first banks. And institutions like banks or other state authorities started to gain prominence and increase in its value and importance. Why? Because two strangers that previously could not trust each other, now they had an intermediary who could be trust with himself and produce the evidence to the other party as to the as to the trust of the other. So now when you would go to a state institution, it would prove that indeed such and such made a borrowing from such and such. So now This centralized authority, be it a bank or a state authority, would be keeping those transactions. And everybody now has to trust that that information that is stored there is stored and does not get contaminated, and that the other party is going to honor the terms of that contract or the terms of that relationship. So a ledger simple or a centralized storage place simple bolstered a relationship of trust between two formerly strangers that did not trust each other. Fast forward to today, we have seen the proliferation of new technologies like blockchain. What blockchain has simply done is previously what was centralized in the control of a select few that could wield such enormous power now has become decentralized. Now, this ledger that was kept by a few intermediaries is now decentralized, meaning at each node of the transaction, any party, any party to the transaction can simply view, assess, inspect, and confirm the trustworthiness of this relationship. Now, it is a game changer. It is a game changer. That's why some banking systems and some banking authorities they will always fight this blockchain technology. But now, here is my point that I wanted to say. While somebody might be thinking of a ledger in an accounting or in a financial or a recording of economic activity, the one that I wanted to focus on today, it is the ledger that we maintain in our everyday existence. So, our interaction with the people around us, our interaction with the world, in everything that we do on a single day, it leaves a mark or a stamp. That stamp might not be recorded officially on any document, but it leaves a mark. For instance, there could be those actions that could be documented. For instance, your acquisition of a property will be registered with the deeds office. Your marriage to such and such a person will be documented and kept in the marriage register, right? But there are things that we leave as a mark on the world that will never be documented. For instance, how we treat other people around us. For instance, how we interact with strangers, how we chose to behave in public or even in the comfort of our homes by ourselves. It leaves a mark on this world. How we interact with nature, how we interact with basically everything, the emissions that we make on our daily lives, the cars that we drive, everything that we do, it leaves a mark on the world. The question that I'm going to ask you today, look around yourself and ask you this question. At the end of your days, when your maker calls you back, what sort of mark you will have left here? Others they call it a legacy. Others they might call it a historical account. But what kind of a legacy are you going to leave? As you walk every day, you are writing your ledger. Your ledger is going to be decentralized because so many people they are going to be influenced by it. They can take this and say against whether their own moral standards or whatever standard that they are going to use and say, This is the impact that this person is doing in the world. So now, if your relationships that you maintain, if your actions, if the words that you utter, if the food that you eat, if the emissions that you do, the sleep that you sleep, and everything leaves a mark on the world, ask yourself every day, whatever you do, what kind of a mark am I stamping on this world? What kind of a ledger am I creating? It is no longer centralized. It is decentralized. Everybody has got the opportunity to read it. What kind of a ledger am I keeping? I was also taken back to a few years ago as I was growing up in the rural areas. I was a head boy, and every time as a head boy, whilst herding cattle in the thick bushes, there were times that the cattle will go astray. And because no single animal has got the same footprint as the other, every time when I would try to find and locate the head of cattle where they've been gone astray to, I would go down, look at the hooves of my cows. And following those footsteps, following those traces, I would go around the bushes, around the thick bushes, even across the mountains, jumping the rivers, following that trek until I managed to locate them where they are. They were leaving an indelible mark that I could be able to follow and trace their new location. But I realized when I started my studies that the tricks that I used to employ to look and find these animals, it could be applied elsewhere in life. When I was doing my accounting, I realized that because we keep a ledger or we keep a footprint of all the transactions that we do, I could then follow those transactions and then I could find out where the money is going. So if you want to know the legacy that somebody is creating, follow the money. I know there is a complex web of transactions today. So there are so many syndicates that will be so cynical and come up with a very sophisticated network and confusing web of transactions. But the principles to unpack or to untangle them is for you to follow the legal footprints that these transactions leave on earth. So just like the money, just like these cattle, everything that happens on earth, it leaves a mark on earth. And it can help those that come after you, just like I would come after the cattle that had gone astray. It can help those that will come after you to use the traces that you are leaving on earth to actually deduce what kind of a person you were. You may try to deny it, you may try to fake it. But when we follow those legal steps one by one, we might begin to unpack this complex life that you are living. If you are living a lie and you are depriving the world of whatever you're depriving the world of, we will see through the marks or the footsteps, through the imprints that you make on this earth. If you have been leaving a trail of destruction behind you, we will know at the end of your days that wherever you went, destruction and trouble followed you. I wouldn't want you to be remembered as such a person who was a danger to the ecosystem and the environment and the people and the communities around you. Today, as you take the first step after watching this video, know that you are making and documenting your own steps. You are leaving a ledger. You are leaving an imprint of everything that you have ever done on this earth. And make sure whatever you leave is worth reading. Whatever you leave on earth, make sure it is a worthy read. This makes me so sad because today I attended a funeral, and as speaker after speaker spoke about the departed, they said he was a very down to earth gentleman who some thugs decided to cut short his promising life. They said he leaves behind a worthy ledger for people to copy, to emulate. They said the mistakes that he could have done. They said all the good things that he could have done. There are those that will walk behind his footsteps, and as they read, they might be enriched by those. And then I asked myself this question: what kind of legacy am I going to leave? Because whether like it or not, I am going to leave a ledger that is going to be read by people behind me. So it made me think and say, when all my days are done, when I respond to the call of my general, he says, Muzi, now it's your time. I will raise my hand and say yes. As I say yes, I should know what I left behind me. And ask yourself today, as you sit back, think about the ledger that you are going to leave on earth. Someone is going to pick it. Someone is going to come face to face with it. Someone is going to read it. As they read, do you want them to show some disgust in their face, or you want them to show some joy? Because what you have done, it has touched them in the right way. It is the opportunity for you and me, for all those that can still walk. As you walk, you are making an imprint of what you are and what kind of a person you are. Make it count.